Happy Saturday, everybody. Here we are, another Small Business Saturday video version of the Furthermore with Amanda Head podcast. I know we kind of got out of sync for a while, but now that I am settled in my DC office, things are feeling a little bit smoother, and it feels like I can kind of get back to life and get back to these video episodes in addition to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday audio podcast. So if you are new to this, if this is the first time you're seeing this video, every Saturday we do this Small Business Saturday series, or every Saturday we try to. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the audio version of my podcast, Furthermore with Amanda Head, is all over. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on justthenews.com. You'll find under the podcast tab, it's John Solomon's podcast, my podcast, Victor Davis Hanson, a whole slew of really, really wonderful content. So today, I have someone who is a repeat guest on this podcast, and it is because he has such a clear-headed view of how federal policies, especially regarding his industry, the trucking industry, can affect businesses across the country. So he is Mike Kucharski. He is the vice president of JKC Trucking, and he is just phenomenal. You're going to love all of the information that he has to offer. He has, again, I mean, just such a clear view on the environmental policies that they push on American companies and what these tariffs are going to mean. So we're going to get into all of that in just a moment with the co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking, Mike Kucharski.
Welcome back. I am honored to have a repeat guest, someone who is so good at talking on the issues on which he is an expert that I just had to bring him back another time. He is Mike Kucharski. He's the co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking. Mike, thanks so much for being here.
Amanda, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. And you and I have had it. We're going to get into this in a little bit regarding the energy stuff under the Biden administration, but I just want to kind of I want to talk about the mood now, especially in your industry, the trucking industry. And obviously, you still have wonky liberal states like California that are causing, burdensome issues for trucking companies that service states like that. But now with Trump in office, it just feels like there is a weight lifted off everyone's shoulders, especially people like you who have, your own fleet of trucks. You're trying to feed Americans and supply Americans all across the country. It's got to feel like a weight's been lifted. Hey.
Not only a weight for myself as a family man and father, but a small business owner, and I believe for all truckers, because we're very excited and hopeful this new administration will help with these issues that are killing the trucking industry. And number one, inflation. It's killing all of us. Since COVID, everything's gone up, nothing's gone down. My biggest issue is skyrocketing diesel. Make America energy independent again, because how's this? 70% of all goods are moved by trucks. Everybody says, "Hey, put it on a train," but it's still got to be. It still needs to get to the train, back from train. Farmers, everybody's using diesel, so we're affected. Even if you don't use diesel as a consumer, we're all affected because the whole world's using diesel to move this stuff around. Uh, over number two, third point, overregulation in the trucking industry. It's a struggle. We're overregulated in the trucking industry, with hours of service, with everything, what I mean, with inspections. We need a break, and history shows less regulation helps increase commerce. Less regulation boosts business activity, leading to freight movement. And I hope this administration does take off some of these regulations, because we're pretty much handcuffed, and it's costing, we're losing money due to these overregulations. Um, More things we need. I would say protection for truckers from nuclear verdicts. Nuclear verdicts are these excessive lawsuits and excessive payouts for truckers. Let me give you an example. There was a lawsuit that just happened a couple years ago in Florida. There was a fatality. It was a complete accident. They sued the trucking company, and they awarded a settlement of like $1 billion for the trucking company. And the trucking company was like a one-man operation, had only $1 million of insurance, and they paid out these excessive payouts. It's too much. I mean, that poor guy, spent all his life savings probably into that truck. He had to close the doors, told them, hey, look, kiss my mud flats. You're not going to get $1 billion. You get, whatever the insurance is going to give you, and I'm done. So we need protection for nuclear verdicts. The new administration can help. Put caps on these excessive payouts and damages that we're all afraid of, to raise the burden of the proof for these claims against truckers and trucking companies. It's crazy that these payouts are so much, especially when there's a true accident. If the driver was, driving under an influence or something like that, that'd be a different story. But if it was a real accident, as a fatality, there's only so much the truckers could give. And another thing that's a side effect of this is insurance reform. To address the rising insurance costs driven by nuclear verdicts, it's killing it's killing the truckers. All our costs have gone up. Right now, we're dealing with something called volume volatility due to inflation. The cost of goods are so expensive. Not everybody's buying as much food as they have in the past, and because that, the volumes are down, and all the truckers were fighting for this piece of business to haul, and it goes to the lowest bidders. This is what's causing other trucking companies to go out of business daily.
Yeah. And, I know for a lot of people, they think that, they think of, trying to think of some of the, Petro and US Express and I'm trying to think of Martin Transport, all of these like huge trucking companies that have, a fleet of 10,000 or greater. But that's not most 18 wheelers on the road. Most 18 wheelers on the road are small fleets, right?
Correct. They're called independents or owner operators. It's let's say you and I buy a truck, and we start trucking. We're owner operators or independent
Yeah.
drivers that we drive for our company, as you mentioned. And yeah, so a lot of this makes up. But even the big guys are struggling too. I mean, JB Hunt. I think I was listening to the
Yeah.
economy report, and JB Hunt's losing like $40 million a month. It's crazy. Even
Holy
it's hurting
smokes.
the whole spectrum. But you're right, it does hurt the backbone of the trucking industry, the independents.
Yeah. Talk to us about your trucking company and the plight that your employees have felt, especially the last 4 years.
What I mean? So we specialize with LTL, which LTL means less than truckload. So if you have one pallet, two pallets, half a truck, whatever, not a full truck, we'll take it from the Midwest to the West Coast. And due to volume volatility, everything has dropped. Well, inflation, it's dropped. Consumers, American people are consuming less because all their costs have gone up, especially the middle class, and very affecting the lower class. Because look, your gasoline costs more, your car costs more, your rent costs more, your energy costs more, everything costs more. So you have to budget. You have to cover all those costs and still have some money what you could left over for food, and you have to budget what you could pay for food. So consumers are using less, which is killing the American people. And the scarier part is, so we're not back to pre-COVID conditions, which is kind of crazy. It's 2025. When it was COVID 5 years ago. When we get back to pre-COVID conditions, what I mean? We were short drivers back then, and we're going to be even short drivers more, because when we get back to those pre-COVID conditions, I feel there's more people in America every year, especially when you have immigration and all this stuff happening. We're going to need a supply chain to move this, and then when the things do come back, the prices will go up again. Almost a never-ending circle. We need balance in the trucking industry and in the economy.
Yeah. It's really heartbreaking, and especially in light of what you talked about. I mean, so many truck drivers, they own their truck, and so when they have to conform to these regulations, and look, these regulations still exist in places like California. But I want to ask you about um, some of the regulations regarding EVs and EV trucks, because I actually have some statistics that you gave me a while ago,
Oh well.
um, regarding long haul tractors and their range and such. So a new clean diesel long haul trailer typically costs about 180 to $200,000. A comparable battery tractor costs upwards of like $500,000, $480,000. But it also is the fact that the range, so the chargeability of an electric truck, and Mike, I know you know all these numbers. I'm just giving this for my audience. The chargeability of an electric truck takes 10 hours, and the distance is only about 150 to 300 miles. A diesel truck filling up its full tank, 300 gallons, can go 16 to 1800 miles. So effectively 2/3 across the country. And in some parts of the country, you can go all the way across east to west or west to east on one tank of diesel. The Biden administration obviously trying to crack down on diesel and gasoline and move more in the EV direction, forcing that not only on consumer vehicles but also on commercial vehicles as well. What are you hoping to see from the Trump administration regarding the clawback of these ridiculous regulations that just by the numbers, if you are just looking at the data, it just doesn't make sense economically?
It doesn't make sense because, how is this? This mandate is based on brand new technology, and I support green energy. I believe all the truckers support green energy too, but it is extremely frustrating because, I don't agree with this because these regulations are not practical. How's this? Let's back up. The reason we haven't moved from diesel in the trucking industry, diesel, we can't find another fuel to replace diesel. Diesel causes, we need diesel because it gives us a lot of torque, and we're pulling heavy loads through the mountains, across the desert, all of through America, going from Midwest to the West Coast. We need torque. And all trucks need torque. And we haven't changed away from diesel because we haven't found anything to replace diesel. Electric sounds great, but the cost of electric is not going to happen. Infrastructure, we don't have it. We don't have this charging stations. We don't have the power. This great state of California is saying, hey, we want all electric vehicles, but the last 3 summers were so hot in California. On the news, they were saying, look, don't charge your electric car. The grid is overwhelmed. Don't do laundry. Don't turn your AC down. So how is this? That was just with cars. Imagine when there's, and I estimate this, let's say there's like 600,000 trucks in the state of California, just in the state of California. It's a rough number. You have to charge all those trucks. Do you know how much energy you would need? That would be just crazy. They're running out of energy right now as is. There's no way we could charge all those trucks. You know what I mean? Unless we come up with some super alien technology that comes out of nowhere that we could charge a truck, let's say in a half hour, not using huge megawatts, and it'll last, let's say, like 1,000 miles or something. But that technology is not here or there yet.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago when California passed the law mandating EV sales 100% by 2035 or whatever it was. And I remember that it was literally within days that they said our grid is under pressure. Please don't charge your cars. And boy, conservatives had a heyday with that because it just so perfectly encapsulated and highlighted in such a tiny microcosm, in such a tiny time period, the problems with putting the cart before the horse when you don't have the electrical infrastructure. And by the way, you can mandate this stuff all you want, but if people can't charge it, they're not going to drive them. And on top of that pressure on the grid, you also have AI and all this other data mining that is going to require millions upon millions of gigawatt hours on top of what our capabilities already provide.
Correct. You know what I mean? How's this? I'm glad that California finally, got a breath of common sense and figured out that, look, we can't make this happen because you guys can't. We're struggling as is. How's this? How's this? If you come up with a better technology that works good for truckers, that's affordable, like say an affordable truck that's proven, you're not going to have to mandate these technologies. Drivers will be driven to it. Truckers will be driven to it. Of course, they'll say, hey, look, this is better. We want this. We want this. For example, right now we have diesel trucks, and how's this? When my diesel motor dies somewhere on the road because it has issues with diesels, now we're going through extreme cold, they're freezing up, or we have these particular filters that was mandated by the state of California that they get clogged. As soon as they get clogged, the truck gets derated 5 miles an hour, has to be towed, going to a dealer. Over road, and getting your truck fixed on the road is extremely expensive. Sometimes they want to replace the whole system and the truck still doesn't work because they don't have the capability of fixing it. So imagine if we change the technology to electric trucks. We're gonna pull in our electric truck saying, hey, look, our electric truck's not running. They're gonna look at it like it's Chinese. It takes time to develop this technology and get it out there.
Yeah. Okay, we've got to take a very quick break, but we will be right back on the other side with Mike Kucharski. Welcome back, everybody, here with co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking, Mike Kucharski. Mike, I want to ask you about two appointments by President Trump that are, I imagine you had an eye on and you will be relying on for guidance and maybe even warning signs. Transportation Secretary, and then also EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and then Sean Duffy as Transportation Secretary. Are you pleased with those nominations?
I mean, how's this? I think Sean Duffy's a smart guy and a good communicator. He's going to be much better than the last Secretary of Transportation. Peter Buttigieg, I think, completely fell asleep behind the wheel. I don't know if this gentleman did anything. He did, well, he appeared on TV a couple times, but he never really helped the trucking community. He just, punched a clock in my opinion. And I don't want to sound negative, but that's the honest truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really hope, after all these struggles, after the COVID, we're still dealing with aftershocks of COVID, the new administration and the new transportation director will say, hey, look, we need to help these truckers out because, when we get back to pre-COVID conditions, we're still not at right now. These truckers, we're going to need these truckers. The American people are going to need these truckers for food supply, for everything, because, like I said, 70% of goods are moved by trucks. And to, how's this, to get the economy roaring again, the trucking industry has to be doing good because the trucking, if you want to gauge the economy, the trucking industry is the backbone of the economy.
I love that. And I'm actually just writing down that statistic right now because I love mining statistics from you. There are a few people in my arsenal. You, Tim Stewart, who is president of U.S. Oil and Gas Association, who I love mining facts and data from because I build it into stories and arguments all the time. I want to ask you about the impact of tariffs on your company, on your drivers, on your mobility, and I suppose your bottom line in general. The tariffs, are you concerned about that with respect to your company?
So you're asking, how are we strategically planning for these tariff impacts? And as a business leader, we must always be prepared for the worst case scenario, and we've been more prepared because during COVID, the supply chain was completely disrupted. The world just stopped making things, and America did too, which was a complete disaster. But we had to find new solutions to problems. And one key lesson we learned is that we don't have to rely solely on imports. The real question is, why aren't we making more things in America? This
Mm-hmm.
is an opportunity to strengthen our economy by examining what we currently produce domestically and identify areas where we can expand production. As a nation, we need to shift our perspective and ask, how can we produce more in America and where are our biggest gaps? Example, during COVID, we could build, so a lot of trucks are made in the USA, over-the-road trucks built here in the US, semi-trucks. We could build new trucks in during COVID, right? But we couldn't get chips, microchips for the processors. So we could build a brand new truck, but it had no chip for the processor. The truck was completely useless. Now they're building, a factory in Texas, I believe, to build chips. But after we learned our lesson that, we could build trucks, but we had key components coming from overseas that stopped the production. Let me give you an example of a food production customer that I have. They make marshmallows, vegan marshmallows, actually. And one of the main ingredients of vegan marshmallows is starch. And they were getting starch. They're made here in the U.S., actually here in Illinois, and the starch they were getting it from overseas. And of course, when the world shut down, they couldn't get that starch. So they were scrambling to buy other starch from different places, and they had issues with production and cooking. It wasn't the right starch. It was doing a lot of weird things. Of course, it was more money, so they had to increase the price. It caused all these examples. But even before discussions on tariff wars, our volumes remain low. It hasn't returned to like pre-COVID conditions. If we increase domestic production, we can boost volume right here in the U.S. and elevate our entire economy. And you know what? How's this? It would be great because if there's going to be a war happening around the world, I wouldn't want to. I'm sick and tired when a bomb goes off on the other side of the world that's not including, not including the U.S. or the American people, that all our costs start going up automatically.
Yep.
For example, gasoline and diesel.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having to pay it. Well, I shouldn't say this as a journalist. I shouldn't say I'm sick of having to pay attention to the rest of the world. It's literally my job to pay attention. But I'm sick of having to be concerned about the bottom line impact to Americans on a day-to-day basis. That's the part that I have quite a significant amount of bitterness towards. I want to ask you about what it looks like for you adjusting your operations, because let's say that President Trump's tariff threat works to a certain degree, that we are able to incentivize American businesses to manufacture using American supplies and repatriate companies back to the United States and start making stuff in America. For you, for the packages and shipments that you would typically pick up at the port of Long Beach or Miami or whatever, that would be coming from overseas, how big of a task is it going to be to replace the logistics of mapping out those shipments with picking up packages from Illinois or Alabama or Arizona, because those goods are being manufactured here, and rejiggering your maps and your operations so that you're now doing that instead of picking up the international shipments? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So you're asking if international shipments drop and our domestic production increases, how we're going to handle that? Of
Yeah.
course, we're going to go for the domestic stuff first. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
how's this? We are in the U.S. and we service almost the entire U.S. So we're going to go for that. I do have international customers that I will still service, but how's this? Since COVID, that international business, it used to be so big. I couldn't get enough trucks. Let me give you an example. Bang energy drinks. I remember the owner once calling me at 9 o'clock
I
at
love
night. He goes,
Bang.
yes, yes, yes. And now it's kind of gone, but
Yeah.
but I remember one of the transportation guy calling me like at 9:30 at nighttime when I'm at home with my kids screaming and going, listen, Mike, I need you to pick out 10,000 containers in Long Beach. And I was like, listen, I can't pick up 10,000, but I'll give you every truck I can. And
Yeah.
then there were problems of the product coming into the port because the port was backed up. It was a huge mess. And this was just ingredients for Bang for them to make it because it was made in Florida. I had to take it from Los Angeles to Florida, produce it. It's also made in Georgia, I believe. And then they would distribute it all over the US. That was a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
Then and that was just an energy drink. It just shows you, I mean, how's this? We have to make more here. And then if we don't make more here, President Trump said this in his first term, and how's this? It still resonates in my head every day when he said, look, we need to build partners like Canada and Mexico that are closer to help each other. And he's right. We're married to Canada. It's funny. I have a friend that has a trucking company in Canada. He says, look, when the US gets a cold, Canada gets the flu. And that's the truth. We're so intertwined,
Yeah.
between Mexico, and then we get a lot of produce from Mexico. And Mexico, how's this? We need to build more businesses, not only in the US, but with our close partners instead of getting stuff from, let's say, China around the world, or, Taiwan or Vietnam, because, any kink in the supply chain, the whole thing, it snowballs into in a huge mess.
Yeah. And honestly, the mess is gradually being cleaned up, I think, by the Trump administration and by those who have a keen interest and expertise in modifying the regulations from the Biden administration. And I really, really sincerely hope that companies like yours really flourish under the Trump administration. And it seems like all indicators are moving in that direction, because once we get the economy roaring again and the American people feel like they have more purchasing power, and then coupled with getting Congress to pass a budget that we don't have an exploded deficit year over year, and cutting down on the spending, which Doge is obviously working very hard at figuring out the efficiency side of things. Once we can implement all of these pieces of the economic puzzle, I feel like companies like JKC are gonna flourish, and you're gonna be shipping American-made goods and supplies crisscrossing all across this country. I can't wait for it.
I pray that happens every day. And how's this? Trump's coming into a big mess, and I mean, and he's trying to fix it. And every day he's chipping away. I'm very excited about the speed of everything happening. What I mean? We're using common sense now. Hey, look, we need more oil. Let's get some. Let's not import stuff from Russia or from wherever. Let's concentrate on America first, and the American people, as it should be, because I feel that presence in the White House has not been there for the last administration. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
want to be negative, but how's this? I did not feel like that. Everybody else was included except the American people.
Yep. We have gone from America last to America first, and boy, it feels good. Mike Kucharski, tell everybody where they can find you and find out more about your company.
Yeah, if you're looking to find information about JKC, you could go to jkctrucking.com. If you're looking to change your career, you could go to JKC jobs at jkctrucking.com to become a truck driver and be a be your own, be an essential worker, feeding American people.
I love it. I love it, Mike. I love your company. I love everything that you guys are doing. I love the message that you are sending to the American people and to manufacturers across this country. Thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we'll take a break and we'll be back on the other side.
Welcome back, everybody. All right, it's Saturday, so let's get into a Saturday topic. And by that, I mean today marks the 1-week anniversary of the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. And Saturday Night Live aired their very special 50th anniversary episode last Saturday. And, well, let's just say they've learned nothing. It kind of feels like with Democrats and Hollywood elites, maybe we need to hang a tennis ball from a string and kind of guide them towards a party message and narrative, because they're not finding it themselves. They are continuing down this road of telling Americans that if you support Trump, you're racist, you're scared of Black people, which was the resonating message from the skit that they did. So basically, Tom Hanks, it was a refresh of a skit that he did years ago, Black Jeopardy. And Tom Hanks is wearing a MAGA hat and he goes to shake the Black host's hand and he's like scared to shake his hand. It's like, wow, you guys just keep tweeting through the ratio. You just don't get it. And it's not just conservatives who are saying this. So Victoria Jackson, who is an alum of Saturday Night Live, was speaking out about this, and she told TMZ, she said the actor's skit was stupid, and she pointed out an X post by political commentator Link Lauren, who tweeted out something, the MAGA equals racist trope is downright disgusting. And he said, Tom Hanks just came out on SNL in a MAGA hat for a bit where he acted like he didn't want to shake a Black man's hand. This show wonders why their ratings are in the gutter. I don't wonder, honestly. I don't think any of you do either. But he goes on to say, Trump won the popular vote. This tired trope that MAGA is racist is disgusting. SNL is an unfunny show for snobbish liberal elites. So he posted that. He also said the current Republican Party is a big tent coalition comprised of many former Democrats. Good riddance, SNL. So Victoria Jackson, who was a cast member in the 80s and 90s, I think from 86 to 92, was talking to TMZ about this. And she basically pointed to Lauren's Link Lauren's post and said, that's basically how I feel. Because when you take the simple fact that Donald Trump won the popular vote, combined with some other aspects, I just saw this insane statistic over on CNN, and CNN is obviously trying to broadcast to their audience, and maybe to Democrats as well, that whatever Donald Trump is doing is working, because in February of 2016, there was a 5-point swing, Democrats had a 5-point advantage as far as the identification of the American electorate. So Democrats had 5% more people identifying as Democrat than Republicans. In February of 2021, it was plus 6 points for Democrats. Now it is plus 2 for Republicans. Now, let me tell you, that didn't happen under George W. Bush. That didn't happen when Mitt Romney ran against Obama. That hasn't happened with Republicans in a very, very long time. Donald Trump is the change in the Republican Party, and that is why you have people who are former Democrats coming over to this side. And for those of you who heard my President's Day episode with presidential historian Craig Shirley, I asked him about, because we talked about the bifurcation of the two parties and how it's very, very hard to even find any middle ground. And I was asking him about folks like Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and RFK Jr. And by the way, a whole slew of Democrats in my own life who voted for Donald Trump this time around. And I said, doesn't that kind of show that there is some overlap? And he said, no, he said, it's quite the opposite. That shows me there is no overlap. The Democrat Party has literally shunned these people. And Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and Elon Musk, these aren't crazy people. These aren't crazy people with crazy ideas that are outside of the political spectrum and the Overton window. These are people with great ideas, transformational ideas that will benefit this country. And the Democrat Party said, no thanks, go away. Fine, we'll take them. Come on over. Come on over, baby, as Christina Aguilera says. We'll take you. We'll take your brains. We'll take your ideas. We will take your consistent values and your moral compass. We'll take all those things. Yes, we will. Anyhow, so yeah, SNL continues to remain irrelevant. I hope that they had a great time with their 50th anniversary episode, because I highly doubt that they will make it to the next big one, which I guess would be 60. Doubt it. Highly doubt it. I guess there are still some liberals out there who watch it, but it really is just the most mindless, unfunny content that you will find on a weekend show. And it's been that way for a while. It's really sad. Anyhow, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Remember, we will have our regular audio podcast coming out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can find me on social media at Amanda Head and the podcast on X at Furthermore Pod. And go to justthenews.com, where you will see my byline sprinkled all over the website now, which is kind of a new thing for me. It's fun. All right, everybody. See you on Monday.